Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of my drawing, and I'm just going to kind of go over how I drew my thumbnail, and I'm actually going to be doing commentary on this one. So I'm just going to start off by saying I drew Simon in a more realistic style, and it's kind of it's different than my normal style that I draw in, which is more cartoony anyway. Like, I think I draw pretty detailed in the long run, so it wasn't too hard. But yeah, I went a little bit more detailed just because that's more so the style he's drawn in on the cover, which I was using for reference. I had a little bit of trouble drawing his hair. In my defense though, what I was using for reference was the actual SNES cartridge, and it was this super detailed picture that was about half the size of your phone screen. And it's also why I ended up forgetting his headband too, just because it blended in so easily. I didn't even see it. Now right here, hands really aren't that too difficult for me. But I feel like I nailed this hand. It just looks so god dang nice. Like, this is probably the best hand I've ever drawn. I'm just kind of using a little outline for his armor, just to kind of put the placement of his shoulders and where they're going to be later on. Right there I'm drawing the other arm that's going to be holding on to the whip, because right now he's actually swinging through the air. That's why he's reaching his arm forward, as if he's like reaching towards the screen. I felt like it looked really good in the end. And I'm going back and I'm fixing his armor, at least a little bit. So that right there is the hilt of the whip. I paused right here for a really long time because I'm just like trying to find something to hold on to just to see if I can get the position of the thumb right. I didn't really go into too much detail on his belt, which I'm kind of iffy on. I kind of wish I did put a little bit more detail on there, but I think in the long run it ended up looking alright. And his pants right there, I was getting ready to draw him baggy pants, and then I just thought he was like wearing a diaper. So I just went ahead and changed it to really tight leather pants. And also right there, I felt like I made his thighs a little bit too big, so I just went ahead and shrunk them down a bit. And I think right here I'm putting the rest of the details into the armor. Now the thing is, his armor in like newer games and even on the cover, they look more leathery looking. And even in the first game it looks pretty much like leather, like clothing or armor. But I went ahead and made it metal because in the game it's blue and it just looks like blue armor. So right here I'm drawing like a cracked stone platform, and you'll see why in a second. And you know, this is supposed to be like an old castle, so I was drawing like rocks and cracks in it. So right here, this is like the first time I've ever really drawn a skull. Like, I've drawn really cartoony skulls before, but I've never actually drawn a realistic looking skull, so I was having to find a lot of reference pics. But I think I ended up turning out pretty alright. And I started off, I made his jaw kind of like a normal length, but in the long run I ended up stretching it way out to make it look super unnatural. I just felt like it made it look a little bit more monstrous and less, you know, human-like, I guess. Going back to earlier on how I say I think I'm pretty good at drawing hands, I feel like I nailed these hands right here. They just look so sharp and creepy. And just the positioning of them is really great too. I'm not the greatest at drawing feet though, so I tried to kind of hide it a little bit with the platform, but also give enough detailing to, you know there's a foot there. I think for my first skeleton, it doesn't look too bad. Alright, I'm getting ready to draw the hook that is holding the chain that Simon just hooked onto with his chain. And in the game, they're bats. Like, they could be golden bats or silver bats, and you just whip them and you swing on them. I'm going to draw like a cobblestone wall that it's on. I didn't really... may look like there's a lot of detail, but I just did rough line work. I felt like it's going to be all the same color and shaded in, so I didn't really try too much on the lines there. So right here with the chain, what I ended up doing, you're about to see in a second, but I started drawing the chain just as like, you know, chain by chain, and then I realized I'm just not going to be able to get the shape of it right, so I went ahead and I drew a line, and I made it the opacity lighter, and then I just drew the chains along that line like this. I don't know if there's like an actual technique to drawing chain or rope like that. I just kind of made it up on the fly, and I thought it turned out pretty alright. Also, I didn't want the chain to look, you know, perfectly oval or square, because this is supposed to be like Dark Ages, Middle Ages kind of time period, and obviously there's not going to be, you know, a factory press to make perfect cylindrical chains and whatnot. So I wanted it to look kind of crude, and I thought it turned out pretty alright. I'm just adding a little bit more detail to kind of give it that extra gritty texture to it. Now, in this game, he technically doesn't have the combat cross is what that is, but I went ahead and gave it anyway. Now right here, I'm actually starting to draw the eye of the Hydra. And the thing is, I'm not good at drawing reptilian creatures. I've just never really practiced that much for it. But I thought I did pretty alright without doing practice beforehand. Like, I really just wanted him to look bony and kind of sharp looking, and I felt like I did pretty alright at it. Definitely turned out a lot better than I expected. Now, not to toot my own horn, but I felt like that part right there with the spikes, I used it to kind of like guide the body to give it more of a feel of a direction, and I just kind of made that up as I was doing it. Now right here, I'm actually going back over the line work and making it a little bit more jagged, because I thought he looked too much like a worm and less of a reptile. And I thought just doing this gave it a little bit more of a scaly texture. Now I'm starting on the second Hydra. And I'm trying to copy the look of the other Hydra, but just from a completely separate angle. It is kind of hard to make a realistic looking dragon whenever they don't actually exist. So they may have came off as a little bit too cartoony, but I still think they looked pretty great. Going back over the lines again over on this one too, just to make it look more scaly. And I'm doing that spike thing again, trying to give it that direction of... So right here, this is kind of funny, because on the cover of the reference I was using for, there's a like goddess statue on this pillar, and the thing is, she doesn't appear anywhere in the game, but I went ahead and added her anyway, just to kind of keep that continuity. And I'm adding a little bit more of the background, just some bricks, and a little more detail on the cracking over there. And I'm drawing them over a pit of water. I almost started drawing like a knight down there, but I decided against it just because it wasn't there in the actual reference, but I was just trying to fit as much as I could. So I just went ahead and just added some brick stairs going up out of it. And then to give it another more depth to the background, I went ahead and made it to where the hydras wrap around. And right here, I'm actually starting the Medusa head. Now, I don't feel like it was too hard. I feel like I'm pretty good at drawing faces. Made her a little bit more angry right there. And then right there, I went ahead and made her jaw a little bit bigger too, just like I did with the skeleton, to kind of give it more of that unnatural feel to it, and I felt like it did do pretty well. I think by this time, I'd been drawing for about 2 to 3 hours. I was getting a little exhausted, so a lot of these snakes are not too well drawn, I'll be honest. I could have done a lot better with them if I actually had the energy to. I ended up drawing and coloring for over 4 hours, almost 5 hours. I ended up having to shorten it down to 30 minutes. Putting some rocky textures into the background right there. I think right here I'm getting ready to actually start the castle. Now the thing is, on the actual cover there is no castle in the background right here. I think it was actually on the left side, but I wanted to keep the left side open so I could put the title in there later. And right here, I'm actually drawing Dracula as part of the background. It's kind of vague as to who it is, but it's supposed to be Dracula. I think most of those old Castlevania covers on the NES and SNES did that thing where Dracula was just in the background, just looming over everything. I'm adding a little bit of details inside the actual castle windows just to kind of give it a little bit more life. So right here I had a little bit of trouble with the brick because the castle was just a little bit off perspective, and so I used the bricks to actually kind of force the perspective into working, and it kind of worked, it kind of didn't. I don't know, you guys let me know. And right now I'm drawing the clouds and the moon. I feel like I'm pretty good at drawing clouds, honestly. I didn't put too much effort on this one, just because I was gonna all be dark blue or black in the end. Alright, and we're getting ready to start coloring. So I start off with the skin tones almost every single time. I honestly don't know much about color theory, but whenever I'm doing skin tones, I always start off with kind of like a bright yellow. I made Simon a little bit more tan than usual, than what I usually do, just because it gives that feeling like, oh, he's outside a lot. But as you can see, whenever I get ready to start shading, I go more towards a red and I go warmer. I just feel like it gives it that little bit more extra depth to the character. Because whenever you're shading in real life, you know, you don't have that color wheel. You have to use multiple colors to really get that shading and to really make it feel real. Going back to what I said earlier about the hand, I felt like I did so well on that hand. Like, I'm super proud of how it turned out on the shading and just the general detailing of it. It really pops out on the screen. So like right here, I went even further into red. Like, I started off with like basically a yellow color, and now I'm almost in a red. I just felt like it just works really well. I actually usually do 4-tone shading instead of 3-tone, but I decided to just make his skin 3-tone instead. Okay, so right here, I think like I was saying earlier, in the game, it looks like he's wearing blue armor. Even though most modern depictions of it are like this brown leather kind of looking armor. But it's clearly blue in the game. Like, even at the end sequence, whenever he's watching the castle crumble to the ground, it's clearly blue armor. So I went ahead and I made it blue, and I made it all shiny looking too. Actually, on the armor, I think I did 5 tones. So I do like this turquoise reflective, and I go back and I put like a little white circle on all of them too. Makes it really shiny looking, and I like it. Now I'm just going back through and I'm kind of making some of the stuff gold-plated coloring. So it's like the same with this here. I'm actually using more of a dark orange color instead of a bright yellow. It's like I just always go to a warmer color and what fits the same, or a different color and what fits the situation. You always go warmer when shading. And right here I'm just doing the leather. Kind of zips by pretty fast, but I didn't spend too much time on it because he didn't have much of it on there besides the belt and the pants. But I think Simon turned out really well. And I make his hair blonde. Why not? I think he is actually depicted as blonde in modern interpretations anyway. Sometimes though, I think he is actually depicted as red-headed too. So I'm not 100% sure on that. And right there, I'm actually using more of a brown-orange color for his hair, for the shading on it. Really makes him pop out, I feel like. Now I'm going on to the eyes. I did that pretty fast. Alright, now over here on the skeleton, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, with colors in real life. You know, whenever you shade something white with like paint, you never use gray. You know, you use more like a light purple or a light blue or something. And so that's kind of what I go by whenever I'm actually using shaded colors in real life. So I actually use purple right here, like a real pale purple, to shade the skeleton. Right here with the Hydra, I actually made him blue, which it's funny because that's how he is on the cover, but in the game, both of them are depicted as red, so there's a little bit of a miscommunication right there. But anyways, I went ahead and made them blue, and I thought I picked a pretty good color of blue. In terms of light source, I was trying to make it the moon. I feel like I kind of messed up on that Hydra's head right there. But I think it still looks pretty alright, especially on the rest of the body. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but on the color wheel, anytime I go to a darker tone, I always go in a specific direction, up or down. I'm always going to a specific color. Now right here, with the head, I'm trying to make it a little bit brighter than the rest of the body because I felt like it was blending in too much. So I'm trying to like make it look like the head skin tone is more of the turquoise. And then I go ahead and I just highlight the rest of the body with turquoise as well. And so I try to force it again with like the white highlights only being on the head. I do the same with this Hydra as well. I feel like I do actually a little bit better on the coloring on that Hydra specifically. On the head, I mean. Compared to the other one. Just because the light source was a lot easier to identify and like I was more used to shading with that perspective of light source. I've rarely ever drawn with a light source behind the person. Alright, so right here in the mouth, I did something kind of interesting, because I always start off with a light pink whenever it comes to the mouth, but then I usually go more towards red, but this time I actually went more towards purple. I felt like it gave it like more of that monstrous, unnatural look to it. I thought it turned out pretty well. And plus, I didn't want it blending in with these spikes, because I went ahead and made them red as well. If I made the mouth red, I felt like it would have been... I don't know, like is the spikes made out of mouth? Like, what? And right here on the teeth, I'm actually using the skeleton shading colors, just putting a little bit more detail on them. I don't know if anybody would have even noticed. Alright, I'm coloring the Medusa head now. I went ahead and made it green, even though on the cover it was blue. I just wanted her to stand out a little bit more than what... I didn't want her blending in with the Hydras, so I went ahead and made her green. But if you can see, whenever I go into shading, I think I go more towards blue, if I remember right, whenever I go to the other tones. Yeah, so it just, that extra blue tone just made it a little bit more unnatural. But, I mean, that's what I'm going for. And I think with her mouth, I just went ahead and did normal, you know, pink and red mouth colors that I usually do. With the water here, I actually did more of like a green color. Because I wanted it to look really dirty, like it was like sewer water, because that's basically what it is. I've never actually colored water before, so that was my first time doing that, and I thought it turned out pretty well. Right there on the eyes, it was for a split second, but I almost added highlights to her eyes, but I felt like it almost gave her too much life, and I still wanted it to kind of look dead. Right here with the wall, I'm outlining the skeleton, and I kind of messed up a little bit, because I feel like I shouldn't have made the wall purple. It almost blended in too well with the skeleton. And so it's kind of hard to differentiate, but later on, whenever I start shading the wall, it actually makes the skeleton pop out even more, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, I'm just shading the bricks over here too. Or coloring them in, I mean. I decided to go ahead and make the roofs of the castle the same color as that stone. And as you see right there, I actually colored through the chain, because later on, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to end up making it disappear and just coloring through it. Okay, so right here is actually kind of interesting on the rock. So I actually started off with like a normal skin tone color that I would usually pick, but this time instead of going towards red, I actually go towards green. And it gives it that kind of rock, earthy, muddy look to it that I really like. And I think just using a different color of shading can really just change the way an object looks. Right now I'm actually getting ready to start coloring in the castle. So I start off with kind of like a light blue, and actually right here in a second I'm actually just outlining with it, and I erase the lines, and I just color it all in like that. So what I do here is, because since the goddess statue is going to end up having the same base color, to kind of differentiate with the shading, I use a green shading color for the castle, and then whenever it gets to the goddess statue, I think I actually go more towards blue. And it just makes them, you know, pop out from each other a little bit differently. And right here I'm actually, I think, using basically the same colors as the church, or the castle I mean. Like light blue. I use a little bit different, just to not make it blend in so well. I honestly go into way too much detail on these. I don't think anybody would have noticed that I didn't shade those, but I went ahead and did it anyway, because I kind of get OCD on this stuff. Right here I'm coloring in the background. I start off with a dark blue. I'm just filling in all the gaps. Now this background, I think it turned out really well. I feel like it just makes all the bright creatures in the foreground really stand out, and I love it. Now right there, I'm actually coloring the bat the same thing as the gold on Simon's armor. At this point in time, I think I was drawing for almost 5 hours, so I was just taking some water drink breaks. Actually, right here on the drapes, I do feel like I messed up a little bit, because I think I went too rich in the red color way too fast, so the shading doesn't make it pop out as much. And now I'm just kind of adding some little details on the inside of the church. Just making sure I didn't miss anything, kind of going through, because I missed those bricks actually. And right here, I shaded that part in to kind of make it feel like the tower was like going over, just to kind of make it feel like it has a little bit more depth to it. And now I'm adding smoke coming out of the Hydra's nostrils. And there you have it. I really love the way this thumbnail turned out. I think it's one of the best pictures I've ever drawn. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more. I will see you guys next time.